Yes, your wife can see the wrapper. You don't want her to see the wrapper. Hide it. Okay, yeah, okay, good.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the regular board meeting of the Hidden Valley Lake Association Board of Directors for Thursday, September 24th at 6:30. And this is another one of our hybrid virtual meetings. So we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Directors, if you'll join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Robin, can you call the roll call,
Sure.
please?
Bruce Bashirs.
Present.
Diane Wiley Bowers. Present. Edith Lentz.
Present.
Sue Story.
Present.
Ted Long.
Present.
Kim Darnell.
Present.
All present. Thank you.
Okay, great. And we'll begin as we usually do with member comments. Since we're not able to have members in the meeting room, we've asked that the members send their comments to the general manager. And General Manager Murphy, do we have some comments for this evening?
I have two. One from Michael Yates. Let me pull it up here on my phone. He just sent an email wanting to comment on the committee item later on the agenda. He says, Randy, how would a super committee be able to cover all of their agendas during a super committee meeting? Would we want an employee or non-member being able to view our finance discussions? And then he cites David Sterling rather, about the size of committees. And he said this should be discussed at tonight's open board meeting before doing away or combining or creating a super committee. So that's his comment. I have an email from Lisa Kaplan, and I'm going to put our timer on just because it may take up to 3 minutes. So I'm going to put that on here, and at 3 minutes we'll stop. I'm a pretty fast reader, so hopefully I can get through it. So anyway, Lisa writes, Dear Mr. Murphy, I understand there is an HVL board meeting tomorrow, which was written yesterday. What is a Zoom link, please? And I gave her that information. She says, these are extraordinary times and the economic impacts of COVID are yet to be seen. On top of that, we are now in our 6th fire season, the most devastating statewide, and we have been locally impacted as well. Businesses just lifting their heads from COVID shutdown for 2 more weeks. Families evacuated, schools started late, etc. We know wildfires are absolutely devastating and can affect anyone, anywhere in our region. We have suffered losses right here in Hidden Valley, and the risk our properties pose to insurance companies in a region impacted for 6 consecutive years is significant. Our ability to be insured could change at any moment. Availability could change. Prices could increase significantly, impacting current homeowners' desirability of properties and thus sales and value. This is not a time to be incurring significant debt, raising monthly dues to families' budgets who are already suffering from the current economic landscape, or possibly asking, what am I doing in this fire hazard zone? And if you listen to the murmur, many are asking themselves this question. We still do not really know the national and local impact of COVID. Again, this is not a time to be asking families to take on more monthly expense, especially without tangible return on their investment, or for instance, money in their pocket over time. It is time to think outside the box. If the restaurant were operated as a private business, which I believe it should be in any case, it would qualify for SBA loans relevant to COVID-19. The rates on these loans are excellent. Please go to, and then she names a website to learn more. There may be some initial issues regarding how the homeowners is organized, but there's probably some kind of way to work things out, and their advisors are excellent. The responsibility for the restaurant should not lie on the residents. It would do much better as a private business. Again, we are not being treated as investors with dividends. In Greenview, it is not an amenity like a pool or a lake. It is a pay-per-use business that has had many challenges and was doing well before COVID. First, there are several restaurants in the area to choose from, and in fact, many people like myself rarely eat out and choose to eat at home to save money. And saving money is imperative in uncertain times like these. We are honestly facing a possibility of a glut in our local market in the near future. Please do not underestimate what 6 seasons of fire alert and evacuation can do to a person's psyche or pocketbook. Many residents, even the toughest, are considering the possibility of moving. And then summarize the last couple of paragraphs, because I won't get through it. She says we must allocate significant funds to greater fire preparedness. Making properties in Hidden Valley less attractive due to significant monthly homeowner fees is not wise or sustainable and could be a factor in deciding to leave. And she's asking, please, to take these into consideration overall. I did respond to her, and she was thankful for my response. If the board would like, I could summarize some of my comments, but it's not necessary. But that's all the comments or so far I have right now.
Okay, thank you for those, and thank you members for writing in. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes for tonight's agenda? Looking left, looking right, I see no hands up, so we'll proceed with the agenda as presented. The first item under reports is the president's report. And we'll see how this goes. I'm going to try to give a report. I'm a little bit rusty. My report, you'll see, is a little bit rusty. But I want to get back in the swing of doing that, and we'll be doing additional reports at future meetings. So here's the report without further ado. Okay. For today's report, a couple things I wanted to talk about. I've been meaning for the last couple meetings to do some takeaways from our recent recall vote. Talk a little about never ask what could happen next, because you know something's going to happen. How we're paddling our canoe through the rapids as a board, how to get ahead with the minimum assessment increase, and how some things are just taking longer now in the world of COVID. So without giving it all away, recall takeaways. The biggest takeaway, I think, from the election was the majority of the voting Hidden Valley Lake members want the board of directors to continue on the path they're currently on. There was a clear majority that voted that, and I think that is the number one takeaway. But there are other things I think that we can glean from the experience and learn from. The other takeaways, I think for me, it really reinforced a continuing appreciation of our members' concern over rising assessment rates and their fear, although not founded, but the fear of a special assessment coming. In this election, we had the laws change, and over 500 members who were not in good standing, that were not allowed to vote in previous elections, were able to vote. And I think that really changes the dynamic of the vote for future elections with that group of people voting. Add some other things. That many of the members were frustrated with the association for matters that are really beyond the control of the board. And this was the frustrating part for me, that we seem to get blamed for everything. The water moratorium, a lot of people with lots were upset that we weren't able to do more. Luckily now the water moratorium has been lifted. Hopefully the market will come back for our vacant lots. But there were a lot of lot owners, I think, that were upset with the board. Also, a lot of people, like the last member that wrote, actually seem to be very confused about our restaurant and its status, that seem to feel that it's a private business, when of course that's not the case, that it is an amenity, just like our lake, just like our pool, just like our stables, just like all those other things that are for the members' use and convenience. So that was frustrating that not more members understand that, and that's something I think that we need to work on. But all the complaints together, or all the frustrations with the association, they all seem to kind of melt down and have a common denominator to me, and that was a fear or a concern over assessment increases, and that we'll continue to see assessment increases. So I think we need to remember that. So that's the recall. We've got that behind us, just when we had a chance to relax for a few days, get back to normal, kind of normal. Well, here comes wildfire season with our mandatory evacuations. And I included this map. It's one of the better ones that I've seen, that it shows the day-by-day creep of the fire for people that were away and that were frustrated like me of why can't we go back? Seems like it's almost out. You can see how every day it kind of went a little bit more, and it just kind of lingered, and mostly, you know, it shows each day what where the new burn was, and the part around us was the part that seemed to be forever active. And then on the right, when I was preparing this, I found a little graph that I had done a year or so ago, and it shows how this board has increased our spending on fire prevention. I know right in the heart of fire season, we still have a lot of concern over what we're doing about fire prevention. And we've been told by CAL FIRE and others that, you know, the more that you do is great, but there's always more that you can do. It's, you know, it's never enough in that way. But we've gone in 2018 for expending about $240,000 toward our effort to now, this year we had 704, but we've added some since then. So we're probably even closer to 800 or so $1,000 that we're spending. So we've tripled it, almost quadrupled what previous boards were doing. So we're doing as much as we can, and every time we find an opportunity, we try to address it. So all this came, the wildfires came on during COVID, when we're already struggling through and trying to find out how to cope with life and stay at home and be in our bubble. We had 8 days of mandatory wildfire evacuations, and we had other days at home that were hot and smoke filled, still worrying about our safety. And so now everything takes longer if you can do it at all. A lot of offices and all, because of COVID and the fire, you know, are not on their regular schedules anymore. Everyone is stressed out about what's going on, and they're edgy and they're agitated, which is a natural response, you know, for this much stress over this long. Just about everyone I know is losing out on something. I mean, we all, I'm sure, have things that we're not able to do that we would like to do. And everyone I know is losing out on stuff. I think about kids in school and their high school years, all the different things. And so we're all trying to make the best we can. And then the comment about it, you know, well, I'm going to move somewhere else. I just wanted to put this in. I'm not ready to move like many are. Hidden Valley Lake is my home. I've made it my community. But also, if you look at California, the entire state of California basically is in the same position we are, the whole Western United States. So if you even did move, where would you move? And, you know, again, beware the grass is not always greener, and it's pretty nice here. So just my 2 cents. Taking a moment, there were some positives, I think, that came out of the recent fire. We're all back. We're all at our homes. Our particular area was spared. We were able, through the emergency ordinance, to clear a fire break, working with some of our partners in the area, CSD and others. It gave us opportunity for our staff to practice their coordination with outside agencies, and I think that was helpful. It all went very well. All the reports I've received are that there was great coordination during everything, and our restaurant was able to step up and help feed all the first responders, get some happy bellies, and also hopefully get some return business when things get back a little more to normal. And then we couldn't gotten by without a big thank you to our general manager Murphy for all his work during the evacuation, and really for all the staff for their hard work. There's really too many to list here, but we thank them all that were here trying to protect our homes and take care of business while we were evacuated. So going ahead, paddling our canoes. How do we get ahead? How do we try to limit assessment increases? I think we're right now in the budget process. We were going to have our second budget meeting tomorrow. Some of the forms aren't ready, so it's been postponed. But since we're in the budget process, this is a great opportunity for the board to try to keep assessments to a minimal. Earlier, the directors had talked about having a 0 increase or a small percentage increase as the goal. I think I'm not going to read them all, but there are several things that are still in our budget that we could talk about being essential or really needed this year, and maybe find some additional savings if we work hard on it. We have the advantage of having received PPP monies and the ripple effect from that. And I think there is a chance to get a low percentage increase if the board really works hard. And I think of our former director, Steve Swanson, when we got into tough spots like this, he used to like to say, we need to put on our big boy pants. So maybe it should be big person pants, but it's an opportunity for the board. Steve also, in one of his presentations, put up this cartoon. So I just thought it was a good reminder. We got a lot of good ideas, but we really need to have commitment and follow through on them. So we'll be going through the budget process over the next couple of weeks, see what we can do. And then careful planning for our future. As I said, everything takes longer. We will need to delay our proposed bylaw change and the loan approval that we had hoped to put up for a vote in the director elections. With COVID and fires and everything, it's just not been possible to spend enough time to properly prepare our proposal. Also, as I say, we're going through budgeting, and it really would be helpful if we had an approved budget that we could then work with as a basis to figure out the best financing going forward. So be looking for that. In the spring, we will at our next meeting, we'll be bringing back a bar to postpone it to the spring and more formally move it to that time. But by moving it then, it will not in any way slow down our current efforts on the Hartman project. We still have the list of things that we need to do and the money to go forward for that. So it would not in any way delay Hartman. It might mean that we have to pay for a separate election, which is around $10,000 or $15,000. But if this is really going to be the big option that we hope it will be, that will really just be a small amount of money to be able to put it before the members and have the members vote on if they want to accept it. So that's probably the biggest thing that's happening right now because of some of the delays and things that have been going on. Also, we need to continue to work with the county, the architects, the general contractor, and the building advisory committee in moving the Hartman process along. As I say, there've been some talk that with the recent fires, some of the labor, or not labor, but rather material expenses may be going up. We found that the longer we wait, the more things go up. So really, waiting is really not an option. And that's a reason why when we do sign our contract with the general contractor, we will have a guaranteed maximum price. So we'll know what we're looking at. So just kind of to summarize the times, do mean we are in different times. We do need to be more cautious and careful as a board as we proceed. We need to look for opportunities to help our members by making the hard choices to keep assessments as low as possible while continuing to properly maintain our member services and amenities. So that's a challenge before us, and going ahead, still more uncertainty. So leave it with that. So that's my report, and we'll move on. The next report is Treasurer's report. Treasurer's story.
Sure. The subcommittee for the Finance Committee met this morning, and we went over August financials, and we did accept them as presented. And as Bruce had announced that we did postpone the meeting that we had scheduled for tomorrow. We won't be rescheduling that until we do get the reserves back. So that's all.
Okay. Secretary report, a summary of the executive session meeting minutes.
The summary for the executive session Thursday, September 10, 2020 at the HBLA Activity Center. The meeting was called to order at 4:20 p.m. Present were directors Brashears, Darnell, Lentz, Long, Story, Wiley, Bowers. Guests GM Murphy and Accounting Director Kim Smith. The board approved executive session meeting minutes from August the 8th and August 27th. Meeting on August 22nd, 2020 was an open session. The board discussed 3 member issues. They discussed 2 formation of contracts. The board discussed 2 personnel issues and 2 legal issues. Meeting was adjourned at 6:20 Next meeting is scheduled for September 24th, 2020.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next report is our staff report. General Manager Murphy.
Yeah, so I'm pulling a few pictures up. I want to talk a little bit about some of our current projects. First of all, the board at the last, one of the more recent board meetings gave us approval to award a contract to RGW to do some fire abatement work up on parcel 00, which is basically a little bit, I guess that would be west of our Spruce Grove gate. And it goes up a slope to the homes up around Crescent Court and Hacienda Court. And it's a pretty steep, and as you can see, this is one of the before pictures. There's a lot of brush in there. They went in and for $66,000, they cleared out a lot of this lot. I'm not sure if I have the right pictures in the right order. No, I don't, so I'll skip through those. What happened? See all photos, how about that? No, that's not going to do it. Go back here, sorry. Technical difficulty. So after, hopefully you all can see this. This is one of the after pictures. Now this isn't the same place, but this had a lot of brush. They've cleared out a lot. They made it more like a park. The idea is that we will keep this up and keep that fire danger down in that area. Here's another photo of after. So again, this was not all necessarily overgrown with brush like the other one. They didn't clear it totally out. We have to be cognizant of erosion issues. So some of that brush is still there, but they made it more manageable and easier to maintain. So I thought it would be helpful to share this. And then a railing project we've got going on. This does not want to cooperate. So this is a project, the fishing pier rather. Oh, come on. Not had to do this before, so this is getting interesting. I apologize. So this is there was railing here before, but it had kind of strands of wire, and kids were climbing up on it and stretched it all out. And so then we pulled all of that cabling out, and then it became a concern for some parents because small kids could fall through into the water. So we recognized that as a concern. And then, so they've gone through and made some changes, and it's not quite complete, but it's at least pretty and effective. So that's another project that Matt's crew has done. This last one I wanted to put up was a sign for our we've got the 40 odd lots that we talked about at the last meeting. These signs are going to be going up in the next few days. Interestingly, I got an email from a member who said, apparently read the agenda and said, you know, shame on you. You should have given everybody else who owns a lot a chance to sell their lot before you put your lots up for sale. And I did not respond to them, but obviously it's been 2 months since the moratorium was lifted. So they did have a little bit of a head start. My other comment would be that as we sell these lots and they get developed, these lots are currently we're not collecting assessments for them. So to the extent we sell them to somebody else, we'll start collecting whatever the lot price is. And when the lot gets developed, then we'll start getting the developed lot price. So to the extent we can add more lots to our accessible inventory, that lowers marginally, obviously, because the total cost to operate the association is what it is. But you divide it by, and right now it's 3272. And if we sell all 40 something lots, then it would be 33 and 10 or thereabouts. So you're dividing that larger number by a larger number. And so the result, it's negligible, but it's still noticeable. So it is providing a little bit of relief financially to the membership. A couple of other things to talk about. The Greenview is doing well with curbside takeout. Matt's recent comment to me was that he assumes or estimates he's going to come in somewhere around $70,000 for the month of September. $70,000 was a good month when he first took over as chef. So, and that's full restaurant, full bar, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. We're operating on a much smaller calendar or time frame, you know, from 10 to 8, I believe, with a limited bar and a takeout menu. And that's pretty impressive in my opinion. Right now we are able, based on the current COVID restrictions, to be open at 25% capacity inside. If you remember, we were open to inside dining before it's social distancing, and we were not very well attended. Matt and I are working with Flash Vote to create a poll to talk to folks about and try and get, you know, are you willing or are you ready to come back to eat? Obviously, we have to be concerned about the weather and wanting indoor dining potentially. But given the recent development with the increasing number of COVID cases in Lake County, there's a chance we're going to go the other way, which would be no more indoor dining. So we haven't started it yet. So we're waiting. We've been waiting for it to get to the 50% before we start. But so that's kind of where we're at there. They've been doing some interior painting, and he said it looks great. And looking for seating options when the rain starts. So we've got the covered deck in the back. We're looking at possibly, if we're not going to open for inside dining, possibly doing some kind of inexpensive cover on the deck there currently where they're doing the bar. That's a pretty good amount of space there. We have those propane outdoor heaters and can create an area that's sheltered from the rain and still be able to do some dining at the site. So those are some of the things we're looking at. All the events continue to be canceled due to COVID protocols. We just had a discussion earlier today. We are not going to be sanctioning, more than likely, sanctioning any Halloween events. And CDC has come out with guidelines recently that suggest nothing. And so we're not going to stop people from doing what they want to do on Halloween, but we're not, as an association, going to be sponsoring any events. We don't intend to have the lights up on Spyglass, for instance, or any of those things, because that can be seen as sanctioning. And based on our way our insurance works, we're not covered. We're totally exposed in the event somebody contracted COVID and could point back to us and assign blame to that. So we're being, out of an abundance of caution, not going to be doing anything for Halloween. Board and committee meetings, obviously, we continue to struggle with getting a quorum. That's going to be an item on the agenda later tonight, and hopefully we can come to some kind of an agreement direction on that. I've shared what the weed abatement and those things look like. I have a report from Elizabeth about chipping. She says we resumed chipping after Rick from Timberline was released immediately. When he returned the following week, he chipped 134 piles between September 14 and 17. This included the call-in piles and ones he just saw on the side of the road. There is $34,000 left in the budget for the remainder of the year. And obviously we published in clear lines and have used the guidelines. We've seen some photos about the damage that was done to that equipment. So that's problematic and a reminder to everybody to show that we're only doing branches. We're not doing wire. We're not doing certain types of bushes and things. So please pay attention to that. So I, based on some of the concerns raised during the fire, especially, we're starting to look at properties inside the gates that are not being abated for brush. There is a ordinance, a nuisance vegetation ordinance by the county. It was passed about 2 years ago. So we're looking at starting to ramp up enforcement for that, getting the county involved. And it looks like right now we've got 75 different lots that have been essentially abandoned. In other words, the owners are not paying their assessments. So we're going to have to come up with a way to deal with those. That'll be subject to some future meeting. In the meantime, I'm working on getting letters sent from our attorney advising those owners that they are not only potentially civilly liable, but criminally liable if something bad happens because they don't keep their lot clear. And the last thing, reminder, I've seen some stuff. I get an email every day from PG&E right now. There is a potential for a PSPS shutoff beginning on Saturday, I believe, evening. It's not currently forecast to hit our area. So Zone 4, Lake County, is not on the list of areas that could potentially be impacted. But we all know how those things can change. So this is weather forecasting, and I've made a comment before to some of my friends that, you know, I'd like to be a weather forecaster. That's the only job you can have and be wrong 90% of the time and still be employed. So just keeping in mind that there is a forecast for our general area, Northern California. Pay attention in the event there is a PSPS, and be prepared for it. Some results: we moved the speed sign over to Mount Meadow North at Powderhorn 12T for the last couple of weeks. We've registered a total of so September 3rd to the 24th, which is today, I believe. Yeah, total of 12,732 vehicles were registered in those roughly 3 weeks of time. Average speed violations, so that's an excess 5 miles an hour or more, excess of the speed, was about 32%. So about a third of the cars traveling on that stretch of road, which validates a lot of complaints we get, because a lot of people live on Mountain Meadow North complain about that. So roughly 1/3 of the vehicles are traveling at least 5 miles an hour over the posted speed of 25. Interestingly, the average speed is 20 miles an hour. And the maximum speed registered during that 3-week period was 47 miles an hour, but just about every day had at least 40 miles an hour as a registered high speed. The 85th percentile, which is how, when they do traffic engineering studies, they determine what the speed limit should be. So 85% of the traffic travels at this speed, 28 miles an hour. So our posted speed of 25 is legitimate in that it is what, if we had Public Works Department or whatever, they would post. I mean, not only that, but there's the whole issue about it being residential, which is 25 anyway. But that's good to know. We've got the speed limit correct. And lastly, just a couple of updates. Not a lot of increase, but just to update. We haven't talked about it in a while. The recall expense year to date, including the Inspector of Election, although I'm not sure this has got his second invoice. I'm not sure we've seen it. $27,680.84 or 64 cents. Sorry. I believe we still have an outstanding invoice from him. That should add another 3,000 or 4,000 to that total. And that's not including staff, over 300 hours of staff time. And then on the Cindy Spears lawsuit, that's changed only a little bit because we just had to file a motion to compel a couple of Fridays ago. That amounts to date, we spent $26,445.41. And again, that number is going to go up. We haven't had an invoice from our attorney since the end of June, so we should be seeing one any day. They tend to run around $4,000, $5,000 a month, so that's just something we haven't received an invoice for. And that, my report is complete.
Okay, we have one follow-up question. You mentioned the PSPS,
Yes,
and you were talking the other day that if one does occur, we won't be able to participate like we did before. We had Greenview open and people were going down to charge up, and we had the activity center open, but now there's COVID.
right. So we will be able to provide some charging stations for folks at the Greenview, but there's no plan currently to open the inside of the building. Cooling centers, typically these things happen when it's hot, so cooling centers are a requirement of the county. I don't know where or they would have one on the South County, but yeah, no, for COVID reasons more than anything, we have to, again, we don't have insurance protection. If somebody contracts, can point to the association and say, I got it there, and they were able to prove it through contact tracing. I mean, even if we weren't found to be responsible, there would be costs of litigation and defense. So discretion being the better part of valor, we do not intend to open up the inside of any of our buildings, but we will try and provide recharging stations on the outside.
Okay, so more important than ever that people have their own individual plans of how they're going to get by this time if it does happen.
Absolutely.
Okay, any of the other directors have questions or comments for the GM?
No.
On the report? Nope, okay. We'll move along. Next is our consent agenda. We have the minutes from the emergency board meeting on Saturday, August 22nd, the regular board meeting minutes of September 10th, and the August financials. Would anyone like to pull any of those items from the consent agenda? Seeing none, then we'll go ahead and approve the consent agenda as presented. So those three items are approved. Next item is the committee and liaison reports. Looks like we have several of the minutes from ECC from May 1st to August 7th, getting the board caught up on their activities. We have the minutes from the Building Oversight and Advisory Committee from July 30th and September 16th in our packets for board review. And then in terms of changes, we have a resignation letter from Linda Turner resigning from the Safety and Security Committee. Apparently her hours of employment are changing, making it difficult for her to regularly participate. So we thank Linda for her volunteering and being part of the committee for the time that she was on the committee. Any of the committee liaisons is also the time that committee liaisons can comment on their committee activity. We're going to be talking about committees a little bit later. Edith, you want to comment?
At our last ECC meeting, Steve Warden took over as committee chair for the first time. Considering that can be a rather busy meeting with everybody having opinions on everything, he did a very good job of controlling the meeting and allowing people to get their points across. I think with a little experience, he's going to be a good addition as the chairperson of ECC.
Okay, well, that's a timely comment. Anyone else have comment? Oh, okay.
Well, we talked about Neighborfest earlier today and the liability with the legal, but I just wanted to let everyone know that I had been in contact with the county, with North Coast, trying to get something going and was checking in on CERT also. And it is just because of liability for the association, we're not going to be able to do anything to have a Firewise event. I've been trying behind the scenes, believe me. And then the CERT, and right now everything's just in a holding pattern because of the county and what's going on with the county. So I just wanted to let everyone know that stay tuned. We're not taking it off the calendar, so we're wanting to get something scheduled, but we're having to wait until we get approval from our legal and the county.
Okay, no, thank you, and thanks for all your work. And that's just, since we have this new general manager, all this seems to be happening. We can't avoid it. It's just Murphy, but yeah, that you were able to secure a grant.
Yeah.
We've always said, well, why don't we get a grant? So we finally got one, and now here we're having the difficulty of making the event happen. So, but thanks for all your hard work on that. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Our next item is committee appointments, and going back to the report that Edith just gave, yes, Steve Warden was recommended by the ECC committee to be their chair and is just awaiting the board's confirmation. So in our packets today, we have a ballot to whether to confirm Stephen Warden as the ECC chair.
Thank you.
One with a smiley face. And the answer is yes.
Steve is now officially the chair of the ECC with the board blessing. Great. So like he just says, he was off to a great start, so we wish him the best in his role there. Okay, next item is old business, having none. All right, on to new business, we have a couple items. A board action request to approve a golf dry storage building.
Yeah, so this building was demolished about 5 years ago, and it's been in the plan to rebuild it. For one reason or another, it hasn't happened. We did attempt to get bids from 5 individuals. 4 responded, and we were going to award to 1, but then he never came back. So the recommendation is, although North Coast Barnes has a lower bid, their bid was not as comprehensive as Lake Builders. Additionally, we've had some experience that suggests we need to go with Lake Builders. So that's a recommendation of staff. Again, we're not obligated to go with the lowest bid. We have to look at what is best for the association overall. And it's the recommendation of staff that we go with Lake Builders on this project.
Okay. May I hear a motion from the directors?
I'll make a motion to
Kim.
approve the golf dry storage building.
Second that?
To approve it
Yeah.
and have who build it?
Oh, sorry. Lake Builders.
Lake Builders build it, okay.
I think I was missing something.
So we have a motion to award the contract to Lake Builders for $47,514 or $41 that was proposed. Second?
I did, I seconded it already.
Oh, okay, didn't hear that, sorry, Diane seconded. Any discussion? Anyone have
I
comments?
just want to thank Matt for bringing this back to us with more information. Thank you, Matt. That's
Okay,
You rock,
Ed,
Matt.
any comments?
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, you rock, Matt.
Yes, Matt did his due diligence and it looked.
Okay, we're all Matt fans, and yeah, this time it actually, the extra work, sometimes it's just to confirm what we have, but this time it made it even a little bit better, so. Okay, all those, we'll go ahead and call the motion. All those in favor of approving the motion for
Aye.
Lake Builders,
Aye.
say aye. Okay, I see all 6 hands up, so the motion is approved, and the contract for the dry storage shed goes to Lake Builders. Okay, moving right along, another board action request for security vehicles.
So 2016, we purchased 2 Ford Utility all-wheel drive police package vehicles, and they are scheduled to be replaced on our reserve study next year, to 2021. Unfortunately, one of the vehicles has had a serious mechanical problem and is currently out of service. It's about $4,000 worth of repairs that are supposedly needed. We have spent a lot of money in vehicle repairs on this one, really on all of our vehicles, but especially this one so far this year. So it's staff recommendation to go ahead and start the process. There's a 3 to 4 month lead time on these vehicles, so we would not take delivery until after January 1. Anyway, we've had conversation with the dealer, and we're not obligated to make any kind of down payment until after the first of the year. There would be no expense to us. So this is really an effort to get a leg up on the process. It's going to take a little while to transfer equipment from the old vehicles to the new vehicles, and otherwise upfit these vehicles so that they'll have the light bars and the high-low sirens we use when we do evacuations, and get the decals and things like that on them. I know there's been some comment, at least one email that we received earlier this week from a member questioning the type of vehicles. We have looked and used electric, like Prius type vehicles. Interestingly, I just read an article this morning, LAPD spent, I think it was $10 million or something on BMW electric vehicles. And they weren't even really using them for police work. It was more just like investigatory things and not like high-speed chases, whatever. And they weren't working. They're getting rid of them, and many of them don't even have 1,000 miles on them. So I know that's been a comment by some. We've tried that. It didn't work. Our equipment needs to be have a regular vehicle. That electric, hybrid type vehicles don't supply the right power for our needs. Additionally, the vehicles that we currently have, although they have just over 100,000 miles, based on calculations, because we need to leave our vehicles running pretty much whenever the officer's on duty because of all the startup times with the various electronic equipment inside. Even though the miles are arguably low, the engine hours are considerably higher. There's a formula that they use that suggests that, the 108,000 miles on the one vehicle is equivalent to something like 400,000 miles. So I understand, I get it, but these are vehicles we have. We need the larger vehicle because we've got some larger size guys that work in our security department. We need these vehicles are designed, although we're not police, we don't pretend that we are. We have a lot of the same types of responsibilities. We have a lot of the same types of equipment. And between all those things, plus we're getting a discount. We're recognized by Ford as a government agency, even though we are not. And so we get a pretty significant discount. So the extent that we might be able to get a vehicle, a different vehicle that's not a police package, that kind of goes out the window because we are getting a comparable cost and a better vehicle that is designed for the long idle times and the low speeds that we maintain throughout the day. So staff's recommendation is to go ahead and approve this reserve expenditure to purchase the two vehicles and the costs associated with upfitting them, transferring equipment, purchasing a little bit of new stuff that might be needed, and buying an extended warranty. That's another thing that we thought it was better to do. It gives us coverage for 36 months or 150,000 miles. So we'll probably run out of months before we run out of miles, but at least some of the problems we've been experiencing recently will be warranty work on the new vehicles.
Okay, any directors questions of Randy or want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the reserve fund expenditure not to exceed $91,375 for the purchase of two 2021 Ford utility patrol vehicles to include purchase of extended warranties and equipment installation.
I second that.
Good motion, and Diane seconds. Okay. Any comments? Kim?
Nope.
Nope. Ted? Sue?
No, it just makes sense for us to start the process now since we're down the vehicles and we've already pumped a ton of money into repairs and maintenance on those. it makes sense.
Okay.
Yep, agree.
Yeah, I agree. We want to have our staff does so much to help keep us safe here. We want to have the right vehicles. Randy mentioned the letter from a member asking about the type of vehicles. And I think part of that letter, they were asking why SUVs rather than police cruisers. I think it's clear to most of the directors that we do need a heavy duty type service vehicle. But when we were talking about it in the executive session, we thought, well, that could be something that we could look at when it comes around to replace our third vehicle. Do we want it to be an SUV or maybe a different type of a vehicle, a sedan, or even maybe a truck or something, but we can look at that later. So, okay, any other comments? We'll go ahead and call the motion. All those in favor of the motion to replace the vehicles? Okay, we're in sync, six votes, so the vehicles pass, so we can go ahead and get them ordered up.
Thank you.
Take this, another security related thing, barrier gate operators.
Yeah, so these are the gates, not the crossbars that block the lanes. We have 9 different ones around, including one at the marina, and they're getting to the end of their useful life. A 3 of them anyway are an old enough model that they talk about having to MacGyver them to keep them going. And so it's time. They are in the budget to replace this year. So the 4 units are not to exceed 41,000, and it's something that needs to be done. It has been budgeted for the current year. So it is a sole source item because it's got to be compatible with our existing other equipment, and so that's the reason why there's no other bids on this.
Do these have those little flashing lights that go from yellow to green?
No, that's for the candidate forum in a couple of weeks.
But I mean, on our current gates, actually, they have like a little strip, I think, that
Yeah.
changes,
That's probably more expensive.
Okay, no, not that we need that. Okay, Director, anyone like to make a motion?
I move that we award the contract to Electronic Innovations, Inc., not to exceed $41,000 for replacement of 4 barrier gate operators.
I'll second that. She said she did it.
Oh, okay, that was Edith
Sorry,
seconding,
Edith.
okay. Okay, any discussion about the gate operators?
Nope.
I mean, we've had staff MacGyver, and Tom is our go-to person. He's repaired so many things for security, just the association. And those arms have been MacGyvered to death. We couldn't get the parts anymore. I've been on safety and security for years, and it's amazing. And I'm happy that we're putting it forward today. Very happy. It's much needed.
Yeah, when I think about it, Tom's kind of been an IT person within security almost, with the sirens and a bunch of different things.
Our staff is awesome.
He's engineered them, yeah.
All of our staff are awesome, and so, yes, Tom has been a godsend. He saved us a lot of money.
Okay, any other comments? Then we'll go ahead and call the motion. All those in favor of the barrier gate replacement? Okay, I see 6 hands, so the motion passes. On with the new gates. Next brings us to a proclamation regarding one of our long-term staff who recently retired, I guess.
Right. And you want to read it, or do you want me to?
Well, what is it exactly? Maybe you can give us a little idea here.
Okay, so you'll recall before COVID, we had a presentation of Mary Kay for her 30 years of service with the association. She had a crystal ball, but it wasn't crystal ball. We might have been able to avoid some of this stuff. But anyway, she was recognized by Charles in front of the group, and had a crowd of security staff here as well. She's been a very good employee, very dedicated. And when I learned a couple of weeks ago that it was her last day, or would be her last day coming up, but she's since actually happened. Anybody who's on Facebook has seen some of the posts about it. So she has officially retired. She is going to be relocating, I believe, to Montana. So she's not even staying in the area. But I thought it would be a nice gesture for this board to recognize her contribution over the years for her service to the association and its members. So I don't know if you want to read it, Bruce, or I can, but.
I'll take a shot, I guess. So it's proclamation of the Board of Directors in honor of Mary Kay Bloyer Stender. Whereas as on November 3, 1989, Mary Kay Bloyer Stender, am I doing that right? Began her employment with the Hidden Valley Lake Association as a server at the Greenview Restaurant and Country Club for dinners, luncheons, Sunday brunches, and special events. Whereas in October 1994, Mary Kay transferred to the Hidden Valley Lake Association Security Department and began working as a gate attendant and dispatcher. Whereas Mary Kay was instrumental to the success of both operations by always treating members, guests, co-workers, and supervisors alike with dignity and respect, enforcing organizational rules and policies in a fair and impartial manner, and training new hires and existing employees to consistently meet and exceed performance standards while serving in the capacity as a field training officer, FTO. Whereas during her tenure, Mary Kay was nominated and recognized multiple times as the Officer of the Quarter and Officer of the Year for the Department of Security Services. Whereas on September 10, 2020, Mary Kay officially retired from Hidden Valley Lake Association employment after 30 years of dedicated service to the community. Whereas universally respected by members and her peers, Mary Kay distinguished herself as a hardworking, dependable, caring, loyal public servant, at all times taking pride in her work and community while carrying out her duties with a sense of fairness and providing invaluable leadership, guidance, and a helping hand to anyone in need. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors does hereby honor and recognize Mary Kay Bloyer Stender for her 30 years of employment and outstanding service to the Hidden Valley Lake community. We congratulate Mary Kay on her retirement and wish her continued success, happiness, and prosperity in her future endeavors. It is so resolved, and then there's a signature of us 6 directors.
Well, I'd say we give her a little hand, even though she's not here.
Thank you, Mary Kay.
Thank you, Mary Kay.
We appreciate every day of those 30 years that you served our community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mary Kay. Yes.
So we will get this printed on, well, I guess you guys need to approve it first.
Oh, I have it right here.
Oh, right, so should we do a formal motion? Then?
I think you should.
Yeah, I think we want to bless this every way possible, so someone want to make a motion that we accept the proclamation? I guess we would accept the proclamation.
I move that we accept the proclamation for Mary Kay.
Yes, of course. I second that.
Okay. Any comments?
Are we giving her anything?
She got a crystal ball. What else do you want?
This trip to Hawaii for
Yeah.
over 30 years with this place.
Right.
She deserves something.
I have to spend this night after. It's on my.
A trip to Montana.
So, Robin has a printed on some nice paper, so
So don't
before
leave.
y'all leave tonight, make sure you sign it.
Yes.
Then we'll put it in a nice frame. So she'll get a framed thing, and maybe I'll give her my picture too, so, you know. I mean,
So, okay, so while we're still. All those in favor of the motion? Okay,
Yes.
now it's officially blessed by the board. So that brings us to our last board action request. It's more discussion. We talked a little bit about committees and some of the challenges to our committee system right now. And I've been thinking about it, and actually I think our last meeting, Sue asked me if we can bring something forward to get this on the table and talk about it. So this is our kind of our first go around. The request is that the board review and discuss potential ideas to strengthen our committee system so that it can be brought back at future meetings for implementation by the board. So in terms of background, I did a little background into our bylaws and articles and all. And while our governing documents allow us to have standing committees, they do not specifically require that we have any standing committees. So it's really up to the board if you want to have committees or not and how they're appropriate. Our current committee system, it looks like, was really formulated to its current state in March and April of 2010. So at least for the last 10 years, the committees have pretty much been how they are. At that time, I guess that we had 6 committees, but I'd heard since then that we actually had a full committee, so we might have had 7 committees back in 2010. But since that time that I'm aware of, we've added 2 committees. We've added the Covenants Committee in March of 2012, and we've added the Food and Beverage in March of 2015. The board also has removed 1 committee. We dissolved the Elections Committee in April of 2019. So the whole committee system is kind of a fluid thing. It's for the board's use. Again, there are no specific requirements. There is a reference that we may use an EC committee. So there was ideas about that. There is a reference that in committee documents that the treasurer would be the leader of the finance committee, but there's not a specific thing that says we have to have this committee or that committee. Let's see, what else here? Currently, as we mentioned, our committees have been suffering from lack of membership. It's resulted in difficulty having a quorum and really conducting business, let alone having full membership participation. So that's kind of what started this discussion. And then there's a question of what is it due to? It could just be that this is a phenomenon of COVID-19. Some members don't feel comfortable doing Zoom meetings. Some members don't feel comfortable coming in doing in-person meetings. There's kind of a mixed, some on one side, some on the other. We've also had the local politics and all the social media talk about a recent recall, and a lot of bad publicity, I guess, have been out there that discourage people from wanting to get involved. I think there's a general lack of awareness. We've talked about this in the past of members' awareness of the committees and what they do, and do we need to advertise it better? Be added as part of a new member orientation, a lot of different things. So that's kind of the basis of it. Some of the ideas that you might consider. One is that we can expand the number of residents who participate on committees. Right now, we have several restrictions on who can participate that we could decide on to loosen. Associate members now, that's someone that lives here that's not on the deed basically, but's in the household. They are not allowed to participate in some committees currently. We could update the language that allows, say, 2 associate members on each committee, or a set number to get associate member participation. We have a rule that HVLA employees are not allowed to participate on committees. I've heard of at least 2 that would be interested in being on a committee if that restriction were lifted. And we also have a restriction on members who have termed out. If they've been on 2, there's term limits for committee membership for 2 terms. So we could remove that and allow them to go on further. So that's a couple of the ways that we could expand it. Since I did this, I was also given another idea. We have right now a pretty strict social media policy that follows the board's restriction that in general, committee members are not supposed to participate in social media. That would be another thing that we could look at, possibly changing that restriction, although I wouldn't recommend that, but that's another possibility that restricts who can be on a committee right now. We could look at combining them. One of the members that wrote in talked about the idea of combining, say, all the committees that deal with amenity into one super amenity committee that has some advantages. And then right now we have a separate committee for the lake, for the golf course. And when it comes to budget time and other times, those committees tend to compete against the other committees for resources and attention and those sort of things. If they were all those issues were being decided by one committee, everyone would see the needs and the requirements of all the other amenities. And I think there would be a more balanced approach possibly. I don't know, that's just one option. Also, as I mentioned, do we really need all the committees? We've had committees and we've dissolved them in the past. Is every committee that we have now something that is still relevant and something that we still want to continue with? And then the idea of marketing, you know, how is it just that we need to let more people know? How could we let them know better about the participation in committees? So that was just kind of a general review of it, and mostly I wanted to hear from all the committee members, or the board members rather, if they like any of those ideas, if they have any ideas of their own, or what are their general thoughts about what we should do with committees as we move forward. Is this just something that we need to wait and get through? When COVID's over, committees will naturally return as they have in the past, and the participation, or because of other changes, or committees not the right mix for us, or I don't know, just what's the role of committees, I guess, going forward? Is it something that we need to act on, want to act on, or just ride out? So enough of my talking. Directors, shall we start with Director Darnell? Do you have any comments you want to make on any of those ideas?
Not at this time.
Oh, boy.
Okay, and this is mostly, it's to get the conversation going and give us things to think about. So that's good. Director Long, any comments of yours?
I don't really know enough about some of these committees to know whether they should be done away with or added on to. A couple of them look a little weak as far as their.
Well, that's a couple of them right now only have 1 or 2 members, so
Yes,
they're
so they're-
safety and security and commons are kind of dead in the water, so to speak, right now. Need a little resuscitation or something. So
Something, yeah.
also in the packet to the board members, I did copy the charter for each committee, and it says when it was founded and what the purpose is. So if you're wondering, you know, what's the purpose and is it still relevant, you could read up on each committee to kind of, get more up to speed on that. Okay, Dr. Story?
Well, I think that keeping the committees is important because I think it gives the homeowners a voice. They don't necessarily write in member comments. They certainly express themselves on social media, but in committee meetings, they also voice their opinion and they get a voice. And I think it's very important to have all those avenues available to members. So I don't want to see any of the committees go away. I think that they're all relevant. They all have to do with our amenities. Membership has a challenge with knowing what an amenity is. So, you know, at least we give our little reports and, you know, keeping it relevant. I do like the idea of possibly combining a few of them because they do compete when it comes budget time. And so it would be nice that everyone was on the same page. I mean, yeah, so I think that's important. And that's all I really have to say right now. I don't know what the simple answer is. I don't know.
No? Okay. Diane?
Let's see. I think people join committees often for specific interests, and such as golf and green. And of course, I've been involved in the food and beverage for a really long time. Food and beverage, I have to say, has been very successful. I really see the COVID really impacting the food and beverage, and some of the people on there not, you know, just impacting the doing online, you know, that kind of turns some people off, things like that. So, you know, and usually food and beverage people are interested in, you know, the food and beverage. It's a big amenity, you know, there's a lot of things to do. So that's how I feel. I feel that I would like to keep the committees separate, and that maybe it'll blow over and we can be more proactive in getting members to join our committees. So there you go.
Okay,
First, I want to point out a mistake in your chart. Environmental control has 2 alternates, not 1. You have 1 alternate, we have 2.
oh, who are they?
Well, 1 is empty and the other is Paul.
Right, well, these are currently full filled
Oh, I'm
positions.
sorry, I thought you meant they
No,
were
it's
the
not saying,
total.
no,
Okay.
it's saying what their current,
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've been on several committees, and that's how I got involved in government. I think it's a good step, if you're interested in our community, is to serve on a committee and find out how this organization runs. I think a couple of them could be combined. I'm not sure how, but you could combine several of them, I'm sure. And maybe your membership would be better. Poor Commons Committee hit a bad spot. They had a number of problems that created them only having 2 members. So I think that's a really good committee. That was a fun committee because you get an amenity and you get to go check on your amenity and it kind of becomes yours. And it was kind of a fun, it was a good stepping stone for me to get into learn the community. So I like the idea of the committees.
okay, and my comments are that, yeah, I am in support of the committee system. Kind of like others have mentioned, it's a great way for members to get involved. It's a way for the board to hear from a greater number of people, to have ideas kind of vetted in the community in a way of getting more people involved in their input. It's just hard to say what this patch we're in, and it sounds kind of like what Diane said. That I'm hoping that this is just a phase that we have to get through, a COVID phase because of the things. And once we get to the other side of COVID, that the enthusiasm and all will come back to the committees and we'll get the participation. But I wanted to just bring it forward, see how the board, we can bring this up from time to time and see how things go.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So yes, I see a hand up.
Yes, just want to point out a couple of things. As staff, I attend, as GM, I attend most of the meetings. As staff and representing other staff that are the association liaison to the committee, it's extremely frustrating for us to go to these meetings and then not have a quorum to be able to conduct business. So I applaud the board for considering this. I encourage people who might be listening out there in TV land to pay attention, learn. I'm here to answer questions. I'm starting to get more involvement. You can see we're starting to get comments and questions during the member comments for board meetings. Had a pretty good turnout at the Meet the GM meeting, not this month, but last month. So there is interest. I think modifying the rule to make it clearer what's acceptable on social media might be a way to go. I had a conversation with Jim Freeman earlier this afternoon, and he had a good suggestion. And this is actually one of the things that was on my to-do list last year, but with the recall and all the other things that happened. But establishing a welcoming committee or an ambassadors club, and getting people as they move in, and take them and show them around and get them excited about what's and what he said made a lot of sense. So I think that's one of the things that I'll be working on over the next few weeks or months is to, we had a kind of a draft plan, agenda, if you will, for that. Obviously, the COVID still has some impact on our ability to gather even in small groups. But I had a recent encounter with a new resident who was upset because their first communication with us was a red tag in the mail from our environmental control person. And unfortunately, that's a very common occurrence, is that the first experience is negative. They're getting pulled over by the patrol or getting a letter in the mail or otherwise being told they're not doing something correctly. And if we can get that off the ground, just have some kind of a welcome gift, you know, a nice candle, for instance.
Very nice.
Would be a way to kind of open the door and get people to have a positive thing as their first experience with the association. So that's something I'll be working on, and hopefully in conjunction with this effort, we get something positive happening.
Thank you.
Okay, no, I think I did put that in as one of my options, and I know that you're working on that, but I think the board's in support of that, but realize a lot of other things are happening, so that gets overlooked a little bit, but okay, no, that'll be great. Okay, I think that's probably enough discussion for tonight. No drastic changes, but we'll keep it on our radar. Any directors have any final comments about committees we want to make?
No.
Nope, we'll move on to our member comments. Any final member comments?
So I do not have any new member comments, but I did want to make a statement. I neglected to mention during my lengthy staff update to remind everyone that the candidate forum is going to be on October 14th. So that's just 3 short weeks away. We will be sending a letter to the candidates advising and inviting them. The event will occur in this room. Unfortunately, due to COVID, there will be no public allowed. As was pointed out in last night's Clear Lines, please address any questions you would like asked of the candidates. Send them to me at gm@hvla.com. I need them by 5 o'clock, then close of business the day before. So that would be Tuesday, the 13th, so that I can kind of tabulate them and get the similar questions. A reminder to anybody who might be listening or who gets told what to do. The questions are for all candidates. It's not, I mean, you can have somebody in mind, but the same question will be asked of all 3 candidates. The forum, I mean, the setup will be similar to a debate. We'll have the 3 candidates up there in the front where Ted, Sue, and Bruce are sitting currently. We'll have a couple cameras in the room. I'll be sitting across the way with Robin. We've got a red, yellow, green light thing, the visual cue to let people know when their time is running out, and then up. And, you know, it's going to be a casual. We'll have it broadcast live like the board meetings are. There's already an URL up, you know, a web link for it. And I think it'll go great, but I'm looking forward to it. Oh, 6:30 p.m. on the 14th.
And can we attend live or not?
There will be nobody in the room but the candidates
Okay.
and staff.
Okay.
It will be broadcast live on Microsoft Teams. We will record it so that members can go back and watch it after. But yeah, we'll be on the same kind of link as our board meetings are.
Okay, now that there won't be a bylaws change or a lone vote on this election, they can really focus on the 3 candidates.
Right.
So, tune in, please tune in and get involved, okay? Okay, any other?
That's all I had. No, that's it.
Closing, okay, well, with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn at 7:48. Thanks everyone for participating and listening in. Meeting adjourned.